further ado, we'll have our first speaker, which is Martin Young. Now, Martin is a doctoral researcher and teaching associate at Queen Mary University of London, looking at the history of how work time is managed in the London theatre industry. He also works as a theatre technician at a range of London venues. Next week he's organising a stream of the London Conference on Critical Thought at London South Bank University on the 3rd of June and 1st of July. The stream is called Art in the Time of Capital, and will feature papers on temporality and the arts, so do speak to Martin later for information about that. And Martin's paper today is called Stage Managing Wasted Time, As You Like It, and Theatre's Industrial Temporality.
Okay. Oh, that's good news. The annoying little pen symbol is gone. Everything turns out all right in the end. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be doing this paper. It's quite a short paper. So I think I'm just going to get straight into it, actually. Time travels in diverse paces with diverse persons. Rosalind is describing the different ways that time is subjectively perceived by different people depending on their individual perspectives. This is essentially a phenomenological experience of time, one defined by a subjective sense of experience. Essentially, time moves too quickly when it is enjoyed and too slowly when it is not. However, the broader play opens up alternate ways of thinking through the diverse paces by which time travels with diverse persons, in that it dramatises the uneven social construction of time. This is most obvious in the contrast between the court and the forest, in which the discipline of the court, the seasonal and diurnal routine of shepherding, and the extra-social merry community of forest exiles are all temporalised in different ways. This contrast between different temporal modes, especially as they are associated with different models of society, identifies the day-to-day experience of time as a site of social antagonism. Significantly, both the traditional bonds of feudalism and the emerging social relations of proto-capitalist modernity which the play depicts frame time in relation to work. As You Like It stages a critique of what Rosalind calls the working day world, but as I will suggest towards the end of this paper, it also implicates the theatre itself in this consideration of changing social forms, and it is this reflexivity that I want to focus on in one recent production. Polly Findlay's production ran from October 2015 to March 2016 in the Olivier Auditorium of the National Theatre in London. I'm going to discuss this production from the point of view of technical crew, venue staff, and those whose professional life keeps them working in the wings. Access to this perspective comes in the form of archived documents, including prompt books, technical plans, rehearsal notes, and reports by the stage manager and front of house staff. This methodology owes much to Barbara Hodgdon's recent work in Shakespeare Performance and the Archive, though while she uses these documents to reconstruct performance, I am interested in what they more directly reveal about working practice and temporal organisation. They also serve to problematise the notion of a production, which can be treated as a unitary whole, and instead attest to the minor uniquenesses which characterise each performance. The opening scenes of the National Theatre's 2015 production of As You Like It, nominally set in the court of Duke Frederick, was staged as a modern corporate office, open plan beneath fluorescent tubes, decked out in bright colours, and with charming little bonsai trees on the desks. I have much to say about the bonsai trees, so ask me afterwards. The ideological insincerity of this laid-back and casual decor is revealed by the performer's choreography in a movement piece referred to in the production notes as the office ballet. Workers print, pass around and shred documents. They type urgently and frantically point each other's attention to computer monitors. As the opening gesture of the play, this activity indicates the stresses and pressures of the temporal organisation of office life. Through the sustained, intense pace, productivity is maximised, hierarchies are reinforced, and the workplace is disciplined in time. This sequence is suddenly interrupted by a loud buzzer. The arrhythmic cacophony of office noise is replaced by soothing lounge music, and the entire workforce produce and ravenously feed on sandwiches. This enforced slowness lasts for 11 seconds. Some workers don't even get their lunch unwrapped before the bell goes again. The heavy sound of the shredder bursts back in, and it is time to get back to work. Appropriately, In a play so frequently concerned with time and autonomy, we have a very deliberate image of the aggressive regimentation of workplace temporality. The sight of an entire office full of people eating at their desks, food wolfed and barely tasted, force-feeding themselves sufficient calories to sustain them through the working day, has a strikingly potent politicality. A ripple of laughter runs through the auditorium, both at the comic indignity of the onstage workers and with the embarrassed feeling of recognition. It is familiar to eat at one's workstation because there is insufficient time for adequate breaks. We all sustain our most fundamental metabolic needs in uncomfortable conditions not of our choosing. These buzzers, of course, were produced by a sound operator pushing a button. These button pushes were cued by the stage manager and form part of a complexly integrated series of visual and audio effects that comprise the production, one of which is the actor's performance. The actors on stage, like the office staff they portray, take their cue from the sound. The sound operators take their cue from the stage manager is in turn responding to cue lines and actions from the stage. A professional hierarchy underpins the operation, but it is executed by a reciprocal exchange of initiation and deference, waiting and action. Being alert to this unseen work allows for a more comprehensive reading of the stage action. The tight temporal discipline of the office ballet is revealed by the technical and rehearsal notes. The sequence, 78 seconds in total, is broken into tightly choreographed units. The instructions to the cast feature several iterations of the phrase, "as fast as humanly possible." It is the actor's job to move as fast as humanly possible in order to portray a character whose job requires them to move as fast as humanly possible. The highly disciplined work of the performers and stage crew is mirrored in the work of the characters. This observation gives the scene a sense of unity, as workers represent workers and time discipline represents time discipline. Once the action of the play has moved from the city to the forest, the audience is invited to think of time as freer and less regimented. The rushed discipline of the office gives way to the slow contemplation of the sylvan surroundings. Linear time becomes cyclical, and a new set of political economic concerns come to the fore. Hunger is a question of having food to eat, not of having time to eat. This change of temporal mode is deceptive, however, because even as our satisfying identification of the real disciplined theatre workers with the fictional disciplined office workers dissolves away, the movement of things on stage is no less strictly coordinated. The gentle rustle of leaves must be cued with exactly the same precision as the harsh lunch break buzzer. This discipline is evident in the stage management show report for March the 1st, 2016. Ms. McSweeney was late for entrance to her scene in scene 15. She was chatting to me, stage manager, about the fire alarm that was going off. SM error, sorry. Mr. Benton called her as coming upstage to look for her. It is unlikely that anyone in the audience noticed. They saw, as they were supposed to see, a man entering and calling to a woman to hurry and join him. They did not hear, in Touchstone's chivying, Mark Benton's call to his colleague, and the seconds of delay did not register to them as a rupture in the precisely timed choreography of onstage action. And yet such a breach did happen and had to be documented and accounted for, and the documentation had to be circulated as a matter of course to senior management, those who have the power to hire and fire and to dock pay. The stage management report reifies deviations from the definitive Platonic form of the production into incidents demanding explanation. Inconsistencies in the repetition of actions become events in their own right. Where writers such as Peggy Phelan position the impossibility of repetition as being integral to the ontology of performance, here it requires industrial investigation. Further, as a result of being set down in the managerial record, this single and inconsequential incident is made available to me, and so figures as you hear it in the academic reaction to this production. The record is clear. A rogue fire alarm, and not any unprofessionalism on Siobhan McSweeney's part, is to blame. Another workplace bell imposes itself. There needs be no managerial reprimand for the lapse of concentration and the lost seconds, this time. Meanwhile, in the Forest of Arden, the city-born Touchstone grows ever more impatient with the slower pace of life to which his shepherdess bride is habituated. "Come apace, good Audrey," he calls, and on this occasion, for a second, he means it. If the stage management reports capture revealing breaches in theatrical repetition, front-of-house reports similarly completed after every performance as a form of managerial audit, though much less attended to by scholarship, testify to different aspects of industrial theatre temporality. Front of house reports are not usually committed to the National Theatre Archive, and the reports for As You Like It had to be preserved by special request, doubling the sense of accessing secret knowledge, something not intended for your eyes, described by Hodgson. The February the 14th report, for example, records many, many latecomers. Perhaps the advent of Valentine's Day prompted a lot of inexperienced theatre goers to attempt to squeeze in a romantic meal before seeing an uplifting comedy. Or maybe I'm misjudging them, I don't know. The following day, no latecomers. The day after that, several latecomers for the first point seated on queue. One patron was rather upset about having to wait 5 minutes for the latecomer's point. In these reports, themselves an index of a disciplined workforce, a composite picture emerges of the banalities of the theatrical workplace, a professional life of fire briefings, queues of box office and unchecked rucksacks, of turning up early and waiting for people to arrive late. Audiences, the spectators around which so much theatre criticism has elected to orient itself, are revealed in glimpses of belligerence and acquiescence, of school parties and access needs and uncollected tickets. Theatre performs its industrial professionalism through this documentation, and in so doing, produces traces which make that industrial apparatus legible. Every night, a few latecomers, or none, or many, all routine and nothing remarkable. Few L/comers, the different shorthands adopted by different managers chart their irregular casualised shift rotation through the run, quietly marking the textured actuality of working life. This largely unseen work is by no means unique to the 2015 production of As You Like It. In fact, my reason for attending to it is that it lies, in one variation or another, behind the scenes or front of house for all commercially produced theatre, and as such, I think, can reveal something about how time in the theatre functions. Nonetheless, the specific dramatic resonances with As You Like It are striking. These complex labour temporalities are illuminated by a play which dramatises time in a production which theatricalises work. As You Like It comes from a historical moment when, according to the emergent work ethic, all theatre time was wasted time. Civic authorities deplored each hour spent at plays rather than on honest labour, and writers of polemical religious tracts looked to the final judgment, on which day of reckoning everyone would have to give account to God for every wasted moment. This seems to be what is at stake when Shakespeare has Celia survey the forest, the bare wooden boards of the newly built Globe stage, and declare, "I like this place and willingly could waste my time in it." Through its representation of hectic office temporality, the 2015 production provides an opportunity to consider experiences of work in a setting that is, in one form or another, familiar to many of us. More than this, the modern image of disciplined and regulated work, placing the modern image of disciplined and regulated work into the context of the Renaissance play, historicises it. There seems to be an implied continuity between the two frames of reference. Looked at this way, the anxiety that theatre is a waste of time hangs over the industrial scrutiny of time wasted in the execution of theatrical production. The recording of missed cues and late starts belongs to a tradition of temporal rationalisation which, at its early modern origin, regarded the theatre as antithetical to its values. While waiting in the National Theatre foyer in 2016, as 10 and 5 and 2 minute warnings sounded around them, a punctual audience member might have flicked through a copy of the As You Like It programme and read the short essay by James Shapiro. He describes the playhouses as offering a few hours escape, allowing theatre goers, both past and present, to, quote, step out of their workday lives. Framing performance as a kind of temporal retreat from the quotidian order is perhaps inadequate, however. As audiences were constantly reminded by anti-theatricalists, the proto-industrial time that was coming to define the early modern city was not suspended by a visit to the theatre. Rather, there was moral obligation to spend time in the interests of political economic productivity, and indulging in recreational leisure made people derelict in this. The 2015 production oddly performs a similar reminder. It holds up to audiences an image of the office jobs that some of them may have left only an hour or two earlier. And by rendering the stage as a recognisable workplace, it provokes the acknowledgement that the theatre is itself also a place of work. though perhaps one ordinarily less recognisable as such. Thank you.